Have you ever felt a profound shift in consciousness? A sudden clarity, or maybe an unexplainable surge of energy that felt, well, like waking up from a lifelong sleep. Maybe you've had those moments where the world just sort of popped into focus, really vibrant, or you felt this incredible, undeniable connection to everything around you.
Yeah.
A sense of pure awareness, just unlike anything you'd known before,
Yeah.
like seeing everything through totally new eyes.
And these aren't just, poetic ideas. They're real, tangible experiences people report across cultures throughout history.
Right.
So today we're doing a deep dive into some really fascinating and often pretty misunderstood phenomena.
Okay.
Specifically, we're looking at spontaneous Kundalini experiences, the kind that can lead to that profound state people call Samadhi.
Ah, Samadhi.
And we'll explore not just those initial really powerful shifts, but also what happens right after, the immediate aftermath, and maybe most importantly, what comes next on this transformative internal path.
That's right. And for this deep dive, we've pulled together quite a stack of sources. We've got rigorous scientific studies, insights from ancient wisdom traditions, and also some really compelling personal accounts. They paint such a vivid picture of these internal journeys.
A real mix.
Yeah. And our mission really is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from all this material. We want to offer you a kind of shortcut to being genuinely well-informed about these powerful internal shifts.
And hopefully you'll find some surprising facts, maybe some practical insights you can reflect on.
Maybe even an aha moment or two that sort of reframes how you think about human potential. Because this isn't just about understanding a concept, right?
Not at all.
It's about grasping a profound human potential that actually resides within all of us, often just lying dormant.
Exactly. So let's start by stepping beyond the ordinary, shall we? We need to define these extraordinary experiences. What do our sources actually reveal about both Samadhi and Kundalini, and how they seem to intertwine in these spontaneous awakenings?
Okay, let's unpack that duality. First up, Samadhi. Our research describes it in, well, pretty striking terms, like an absence of thoughts.
Right, or a full state of awareness.
Yeah, where the mind's wheels stopped. Can you imagine that? A state where everything is just clear and easy to understand without thinking at all.
It's hard to grasp, conceptually.
Totally. One personal account puts it so vividly, like waking up in the real world after feeling like you've been sleeping your whole life.
Right.
Everything was so real in a way it never had been before.
Indeed. And what's really remarkable about this state, reading through the material, is its profound neutrality.
Neutrality, how so?
Well, the reports say no good or bad feelings, no thoughts, just consciousness in an epic level. It's like the usual filters we have, judgment, concepts, they just dissolve.
Wow. So it's not like being numb.
Quite the opposite. It isn't a dulling of awareness at all. We found accounts describing incredible sensory amplification. One person talked about looking at the trees, the birds, and the fountain like I had never seen anything like this before. And they were stunning.
So everything becomes incredibly vibrant, sharp.
Exquisitely vibrant. Yeah, every detail.
That sounds like hyperclarity.
Yeah.
But here's the paradox that really stood out to me from the sources. One person reported having no word coming in my mind, no thought, nothing.
Okay, total mental silence.
Right. Yet they were able to easily participate in a high-quality conversation without using my mind at all. And on top of that, they developed this new, really compelling desire to only listen. What does that tell us? How is information being processed or engaged with there? It seems like it bypasses the logical verbal part of the mind completely.
Well, it really suggests a fundamental rewiring of perception, doesn't it? Where direct apprehension, just knowing, bypasses those usual cognitive filters.
So it's not thinking about things, but just perceiving them directly.
Exactly. It's not just a heightened state. It implies a different kind of intelligence or information processing, one that seems to prioritize raw, unmediated input over concepts, like the brain shifts gear.
From thinking about reality to just being in it.
Pretty much. Directly perceiving it with incredible clarity and absorption. And that desire to only listen, that points to a profound receptivity, a state where you're fully present to what is instead of layering your own thoughts or interpretations onto it.
That's a phenomenal shift in how someone interacts with the world.
So, okay, if Samadhi is this state of pure, unmediated awareness, what's the driving force behind such a huge transformative leap?
Well, that's where Kundalini comes into the picture.
Right.
Our sources often characterize it as a cataclysmic process, a metamorphosis.
Strong words.
They are. It's described as an awesome chemistry change, even a huge jump to the next level beyond the normal human function.
So not just a feeling, but a fundamental change in function.
It's really portrayed as an evolutionary leap,
Yeah.
not just some temporary high. And the research suggests Kundalini can arise spontaneously, which is mostly what we're focusing on today.
Okay.
But it can also be activated through dedicated spiritual practice, sadhana.
Right, the discipline practices. Or even through something called Shakti, which is a transmission of energy from a guru.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the spontaneous part is key here.
It is. And what's particularly compelling, maybe even a bit revolutionary, is this idea presented in some texts that the human body is, get this, genetically engineered to become enlightened.
Whoa. Genetically engineered.
Yeah. It hints at this innate evolutionary drive towards divinity, something often latent within us, just waiting for the right conditions to activate.
That idea, genetically engineered to become enlightened. That's pretty radical. Does that mean our bodies are literally designed with this latent capacity, like an unactivated software program just waiting?
That's one way to think about it, yeah.
So it suggests it's not something we get from outside, but something we sort of uncover or unlock from within ourselves.
Exactly. It implies these transcendent experiences aren't some weird anomaly, but maybe part of a blueprint embedded in our very being.
Yeah.
And the core idea here, according to the material we looked at, is that Kundalini is you. You are the energy.
Okay, so not some external force invading.
No. It's your own deep potential unfolding. And this realization, they say, leads to a profound connection with pure energy itself, and really crucially, a dissolution of what the sources call false identifications.
False identifications. Like ego stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. The limiting beliefs, the egoic structures that kind of box us in, preventing a truer, more expansive self from emerging. It's like an undoing of what we thought we were to reveal what we actually fundamentally are.
That leads us right into understanding the spectrum of these awakenings. Because the sources differentiate, don't they, between spontaneous spiritual awakenings, SSAs, and spontaneous Kundalini awakenings, SKAs. They're related, but distinct.
They are. SSAs are defined more broadly. Think a sudden sense of direct contact, union, or complete non-dual merging.
The oneness experience.
Exactly, the experience of oneness.
Yeah.
With a perceived ultimate reality, the universe, God, or the divine. Whatever term resonates. And a critical point noted in the studies is that these experiences are overwhelmingly more positive than negative.
Okay, so generally beneficial, even if maybe a bit jarring initially.
That seems to be the consensus, yes. Even if they present some challenges or disorientation at first.
So SKAs then, spontaneous Kundalini awakenings. They're positioned as a specific subset of these broader SSAs.
Correct. And the key characteristic that distinguishes SKAs, according to the research, is that they are significantly more physical.
Ah, so the bodily stuff is much more front and center.
Right. The physical manifestations, which we'll definitely get into, are much more pronounced and intense. However, the research also notes they are not significantly more negative than general SSAs.
Interesting. So more physical intensity, but not necessarily harder emotionally or psychologically overall.
That's what the data suggests. And what's truly fascinating here, and maybe a bit controversial for some people, is the parallel drawn between these spontaneous awakenings and, well, psychedelic experiences.
Ah, okay. I saw that in the notes.
Yeah. Findings indicate that the phenomenological distribution of SASCAs was similar to other measured ASCs being altered states of consciousness, although greater in magnitude.
Greater in magnitude, wow, but similar in pattern.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets really interesting, right? The research specifically found these spontaneous experiences were most similar in distribution and in magnitude to drug-induced ASCs, particularly classic psychedelics like DMT and psilocybin.
It's a striking comparison.
It really is. It suggests maybe that our brains have some kind of common pathway for these profound altered states, no matter how they get triggered.
Well, it certainly raises a profoundly important question for us to think about. If the experience itself, the phenomenology, can be so similar in its distribution and magnitude, what does that tell us about the underlying mechanisms, the brain states involved?
Right.
And maybe more critically, where do these spontaneous awakenings differ fundamentally from the drug-induced ones?
Because they must differ somehow.
Right.
The source, the duration.
Presumably. Our sources don't fully map out all those differences, but just making the comparison is significant. It points towards a shared neural landscape for these deep, altered states, whether they arise from within or are, chemically kick-started.
It makes you wonder if these psychedelics are maybe offering a sort of temporary glimpse into a state our bodies are already equipped to achieve, potentially.
That's a fascinating way to put it. And this brings us to a really crucial point, distinguishing these powerful experiences from actual pathology.
Yeah, this is huge.
Yeah.
Because historically, and sadly even sometimes today, parallels have been drawn between spiritual and Kundalini awakenings and psychopathologies, such as bipolar disorder and schizophrenia.
Which has led to so much misunderstanding, misdiagnosis.
And potentially harmful interventions.
Yeah. Precisely. However, the modern understanding, which is emphasized in our sources, is that these experiences are generally understood to not be indicative of psychopathology, even if they may be psychologically challenging at times.
Okay, that's a key distinction. Challenging, yes. Pathological, generally no.
And a significant step, maybe long overdue, was the inclusion of the religious or spiritual problem diagnostic category in the DSM-IV, the Diagnostic Manual.
Ah, okay, so the official framework started to recognize this.
It marked a critical shift in clinical perspective, yeah. Recognizing that not all unusual spiritual or intense internal experiences automatically equal mental illness.
So the framework is evolving. That's good. But even with that, it must still be incredibly tough for someone going through this to find the right support, given how easily these intense shifts could be mistaken for illness.
Absolutely. It's a real challenge. And the sources conclude this point by stressing the critical need for spiritually informed clinicians.
People who get it.
People who get it, because without them, there's a serious risk of inappropriate treatment. Treatment that could actually result in harm or even make negative symptoms worse, turning a potentially transformative process into a full-blown crisis.
Misinterpretation can really derail things.
Absolutely. It can transform a difficult but ultimately growth-oriented experience into something truly debilitating. The distinction is vital. Is the person losing touch with reality dysfunctionally, or are they having a profound expansion of reality that needs careful navigation and integration, not just suppression?
Right, a skilled clinician needs to see that nuance.
Exactly.
Okay, so now let's dive into the actual physiological stuff, the body's symphony, as the outline calls it, during these awakenings. Because it's clear this isn't just a mental or emotional thing. The body is deeply, deeply involved.
Very much so. Our sources categorize these manifestations quite neatly into Kriya Yoga symptoms. Those are primarily the physical unfoldings and Bhakti Yoga symptoms, which reflect more of the emotional and sensorial expansions.
Got it. Kriyas and Bhakti. Let's start with the Kriya Yoga symptoms. These often sound the most, well, startling.
They can be, yeah. The list is extensive and pretty astonishing. People commonly report things like involuntary muscle twitching, clamps or spasms, shaking, trembling, sometimes limpness, sometimes rigid contraction, even facial contortions.
Wow. The body just starts doing its own thing.
Pretty much. And internally, individuals describe sensations like itching, vibrating, pricking, tingling, and this lovely phrase, effervescent bubbles of bliss.
Bubbles of bliss.
Nice. Isn't it? And a specific sign often mentioned is a tingling or throbbing in the left foot and leg. It really paints a picture of a body just vibrating with new energy.
It sounds like the body is literally being rewired from the inside out.
Yeah.
And beyond those localized sensations, the autonomic responses are really common too, aren't they?
Oh, yes. Our sources mention things like sudden hot or cold changes in body temperature, shooting currents of energy or heat, sometimes described as a zigzag or double helix of energy up the spine.
Like the classic image.
Exactly. There's also a pervasive feeling of prana flow in the central nervous system, prana being life force energy, and often a pulsating sensation in the sacrum at the base of the spine. These aren't subtle little shifts, they're undeniable physical events.
Definitely not subtle. And it extends to digestion and visceral stuff too.
It does. People report bad digestion, purging, or constipation as the body kind of purifies and recalibrates itself. The abdomen may flatten toward the spine, and there can be contraction of visceral organs. Even the anus contracts and is drawn up, which is a phenomenon known as bandhas in yogic practices.
Bandhas, right. And head and eye symptoms. Those sound pretty disorienting.
They can be. Things like the chin may press down against the neck, almost involuntarily locking. Eyeballs might roll upwards or rotate, or eyelids may not open despite effort. A flickering left eyelid is specifically noted. Specific, yeah. Plus strange aches and head pressures, headaches, a clenching jaw. Some even report feeling headless, mindless, giddy, or this heaviness of head like one is wearing a helmet.
Wow, that is a profound list of physical transformations. It makes you wonder what this incredible range tells us about the sheer energy involved in Kundalini. Beyond just a concept,
Right.
are these symptoms actually the body's way of recalibrating and integrating this massive energy, not just uncomfortable side effects?
That's certainly one interpretation. The body adapting.
And the sources even mention some truly wild, almost unbelievable side effects, like psychokinetic interference with electrical elecquipment,
Yeah, lights flickering, devices acting up.
or the ability to spontaneously draw a bolt of lightning from a light bulb, or to auto-electrocute oneself with one's own energy while asleep,
It sounds like something out of sci-fi, I know.
and even causing pigeons to crash into a car windscreen. What? These suggest a profound energetic interaction with the physical environment, almost like a leakage of this intense internal energy.
Precisely. These phenomena, while definitely extraordinary, they kind of reinforce the idea that Kundalini isn't just psychological or mystical. It's a fundamental energetic transformation that impacts every level of being.
Including how we interact with the world around us.
Exactly. They highlight the body as an energetic system responding to an overwhelming surge of life force. It's the physical organism adapting, sometimes quite dramatically, to a higher energetic frequency.
Okay, so that's the Kriya side, the more physical unfolding. What about the Bhakti Yoga symptoms? These sound more emotional, sensorial?
Yes, these tend to be more about expansions in feeling and perception, often deeply positive. Sources describe the emergence of profound positive emotions like love with no object arises.
Love with no object, so not directed at anything specific.
Exactly, a pure, unconditioned love. There's also devotion, sublime gratitude, uncommon compassion and understanding, tolerance and patience for what is, just accepting reality as it is, and an enormous faith accompanies the bliss. It really sounds like an opening of the heart in a very universal way.
That sounds amazing. And these emotional shifts, they go beyond just feeling good for a bit.
Oh, yes. They represent a fundamental transcendence of old patterns. The sources talk about a transcendence of reactive patterns, social conditioning, and egoic habits. It's almost like the nervous system sheds its old conditioned responses.
Letting go of old baggage automatically.
In a way, yes. And there's also a noted intensification of sexual and sensual pleasure. Reports mention intense sexual arousal without provocation, being multi-orgasmic, a feeling of gaseous bubbles arising from reproductive organs, described colorfully as a champagne pelvis.
Champagne pelvis, that's what
And a pervasive feeling of radiating ambrosial bliss, an aura of nectar. It really underscores how deeply this life force energy impacts even the most primal aspects of our being.
It's all interconnected. The expansion of perception and psychic abilities is another area that's just deeply fascinating.
It really is. Our sources mention things like increased ESP, extrasensory perception, precognitive dreams, where people get glimpses of the future, even telepathy.
Wow.
One striking report describes biolocation of loved one through heart's navigation, like an intuitive, energetic GPS system for connection.
That's incredible.
Linear time can feel like it's transcended, with a feeling of entire life reaching a nexus point, implying a sort of dissolution of chronological perception.
Like seeing your whole life at once.
Something like that. And there's a heightened awareness of the environment. Heightened senses becoming hypersensitive. The field of self widens, with peripheral awareness increasing, leading to this exquisite awareness of one's environment and others.
So just incredibly tuned in.
Extremely. And in a truly unique manifestation, some people report a fragrant smell of roses or peaches emanating from the skin.
Seriously. Like a literal spiritual fragrance.
That's how it's described. It's almost like the body is literally exuding this state.
Okay, these myriad symptoms, the physical, the energetic, the emotional,
Mm.
they seem to build towards something,
Hmm.
what the sources call the inner conjunction.
Yes. This is described as the most intense Kundalini experience. It feels, reportedly, like thousands of volts are tearing through one's system.
Whoa.
It's likened to 10,000 orgasms pouring through every cell of one's body and gushing out the top of the crown, with the sensation that your head might just explode from the intensity. It's the absolute peak of this energetic activation.
That sounds terrifyingly intense.
Yeah.
And the immediate aftermath is just as dramatic.
Apparently so. Directly following an inner conjunction, the body looks like it has been fried or electrocuted. One's hair literally sticks out, and the irises of the eyes are lit from within by an internal light.
Lit from within. Incredible imagery. But it doesn't just stop there, right? This hyperarousal is followed by a major counter-response.
That's right. The sources introduce the concept of the white shock. This happens the following day. It's described as a profound shift into a massive contraction and autonomic shock, basically the opposite chemistry of the hyperarousal and opening.
It's like a sudden, severe physiological crash. The pendulum swings way back.
Exactly. But this contraction, although it sounds negative and feels intense, is apparently essential to reset the body's metabolism and organ function into the main climax phase of the alchemy.
So it's a necessary reset, not just a rebound.
It seems to be a critical recalibration. The endocrine system, nervous system, immune system, energy generation, they all need to adjust after that massive surge. Think of it like the essential cool-down period after an immense, all-encompassing exertion. The body needs to find a new equilibrium.
Okay, that makes sense. And speaking of internal alchemy, we absolutely have to talk about Amrita, the nectar of the gods.
Ah, yes, Amrita. It's described as being produced when the conventional consciousness of the ego is offline, and it continues to dissolve the myopia, the egoic self-sense, by radically restructuring the brain and body.
So it sounds like an actual biological agent of transformation produced by the body itself.
That's the idea. Physically, it reportedly drips down the back of the throat. It's described as sweet in taste and in sensation nectar, honey, gold dust, euphoric, ecstatic, intoxicating. And it gives the feeling of being imbued with holiness.
Wow. And the sources even get into its potential chemical makeup.
They do. They suggest that high levels of opiates, oxytocin, vasopressin, phenethylamine, phenylethylamine, and tryptamine, quite a cocktail, would render the individual into an extreme heart-expanding unitive experience, i.e. samadhi or cosmic consciousness.
That's incredibly specific. It sounds like a biological blueprint for having a spiritual experience.
Right.
So how do those specific chemicals actually create that experience? What's the connection between, say, oxytocin and feeling divine?
It's a fantastic question. The presence of these particular neurochemicals and hormones offers a really fascinating glimpse into the biochemical basis of these ecstatic states.
Okay, break it down.
Well, opiates, for example, are natural pain relievers and mood elevators, right? So that contributes to the euphoric and ecstatic feelings. Oxytocin, often called the love hormone, is linked to bonding and connection that aligns perfectly with the heart-expanding unitive experience.
Makes sense.
Vasopressin is also involved in social bonding and memory. Phenethylamine and phenylethylamine, those are stimulants, mood enhancers, often associated with feelings of love, excitement. And tryptamines, like DMT, which is naturally produced in small amounts, are known for their profound consciousness-altering effects, leading to experiences of timelessness, altered perception, maybe that feeling of divinity.
So taken together, it's a potent mix.
A very potent cocktail, yeah. It can induce states of profound bliss, unity, a sense of divine connection, physically manifesting the spiritual experience. The secretion is said to give one the experience of timelessness and being a divine god or goddess. It really underscores that deep integration of biology and spirituality.
It really does connect the dots between the mystical and the biological in a powerful way. Okay, so moving now into these fascinating biological underpinnings, let's explore that neurological reboot, the changes happening in the brain and nervous system. Our very biology seems to get reorganized.
Right, and one of the most striking effects observed is something called left brain freeze, leading to a kind of right brain dominance.
Left brain freeze. What does that feel like?
Sources describe a numbing of the scalp of the left side of the head, this left brain freeze. And the hypothesis is it might be due to massive beta-endorphin opiate production.
The body's natural painkillers.
Exactly, produced in an effort to inhibit the excessive nerve firing in the left side of the brain. Beta-endorphins are powerful natural opiates, so it suggests the body is actively trying to calm down an overstimulated left hemisphere.
Okay, so the analytical side gets dampened down. What's the result?
Well, the consequence of having this left brain function suspended is that the body-soul, as one source puts it, claims its own time and space for metamorphosis to occur.
Making space for the change.
Yeah. This leads to a radically right-brained consciousness, which is characterized by heightened emotional, sensorial, and supersensory awareness. It essentially flips your primary mode of perception and interaction with the world.
So you move in that logical, linear approach to something more holistic, intuitive.
Precisely. It's a fundamental shift in cognitive processing, from the analytical left to the intuitive right. And Kundalini also works to balance the autonomic nervous system, the system governing all our involuntary bodily functions.
Like breathing, heart rate.
Exactly. Our sources say it often starts with a hyperactivated sympathetic state. That's your fight or flight response, high adrenaline, high cortisol,
Stressed out.
basically. But the idea is that this eventually is going to flip into a hyperactivated parasympathetic state. That's the rest and digest mode, responsible for deep relaxation, healing, integration.
Okay, so it swings from one extreme to the other, eventually finding balance.
That seems to be the pattern described. And those heart expansions we talked about earlier, the periods of intense bliss, sometimes even profound lethargy,
Yeah.
they may occur precisely when the parasympathetic gains dominance in the cascade of Kundalini activity. It signals a profound internal shift towards deep relaxation and recovery, where the body can really integrate the energetic changes.
That makes sense. And neurotransmitters play a huge role too, right? The brain chemistry itself shifts.
Oh, absolutely. Neurotransmitter fluctuations are a key part of this biological alchemy. During meditation, for instance, studies show an increase in the inhibitory neurotransmitter GABA.
GABA, the calming one.
Exactly. Think of GABA as the brain's natural brake pedal, slowing down nerve activity. By increasing GABA, you permanently reduce baseline HPA axis activation.
The HPA axis, that's the stress response system.
That's the one, your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, your body's central alarm system. So increasing GABA is like turning down the volume on that alarm, helping your system return to peace, which is crucial for managing the intense energy of Kundalini without just burning out or getting overwhelmed by anxiety.
Okay, so more GABA is good for calming things down.
Yeah.
But then there's glutamate.
Right. Glutamate is described as the most prominent neurotransmitter, and it's excitatory. It's the brain's accelerator pedal. Now, our sources highlight that if glutamate becomes hyperactivated, it can actually lead to problems, neuron-programmed cell death, or apoptosis, through the oxidative stress of free radicals.
So too much acceleration can damage the engine, basically.
That's a good analogy. It's a significant risk, emphasizing the delicate balance needed. The sources explain that with an exaggerated activation of the adrenal, dopamine, and cortisol systems, the systems pushing that accelerator, we need to focus on building up our serotonin, GABA, and acetylcholine systems, which get burnt out during the hyperphase.
So some systems get depleted trying to keep up or counterbalance.
It seems so. It's like the body is pushing the accelerator hard while simultaneously trying to apply the brakes, and certain systems just get worn down in the process.
It really sounds like a high-wire act of internal chemistry.
It does. And here's where nitric oxide, NO, comes in. It's described as a major signal transduction molecule, a neurotransmitter, and also a potent nitrogen-free radical. It's known to engorge both heart and sex organs. And importantly, NO is key in amplifying nerve impulses on glutamate nerves. So while too much glutamate activity can be bad, NO seems to be key in making those nerve impulses more efficient and powerful, maybe facilitating that intense energy flow without causing as much damage.
Interesting. And histamine is involved too. Usually we think of allergies.
Right. But here it's intimately involved with nitric oxide. It stimulates prostaglandin release, increases vascular permeability, which apparently helps expand the capacities of consciousness.
Oh.
It also plays a role in balancing the nucleus accumbens, which is vital for sensory filtering. So this whole chemical dance shows these really intricate physiological mechanisms underlying consciousness expansion. Even histamine gets in on the act.
It's a testament to the body's incredible complexity and adaptability.
Yeah.
And it's not just the brain, right? The heart plays a massive role too, almost like a second brain.
An astounding role, yeah. Our sources detail that about 60 to 65% of all the cells in the heart are neural cells, neurons, which are precisely the same as in the brain. And they seem to operate similarly, monitoring and controlling the whole mind-brain-body process.
So the heart has its own intelligence.
It appears so. Furthermore, the heart is identified as the major endocrine glandular structure. It produces hormones that profoundly affect the operations of body, brain, and mind.
And its electromagnetic field. That sounds amazing.
It really does. It produces 2.5 watts of electrical energy at each pulsation, creating an electromagnetic field identical to the electromagnetic field around the Earth. And this field surrounds the body from a distance of 12 to 25 feet outward.
12 to 25 feet, that's huge.
It is. And this field is described as a principal source of information upon which the body and brain build our neural conception and perception of the world itself.
So we're literally perceiving the world through our heart's field.
That's the implication. Plus, its direct neural connections to the limbic brain, the emotional brain, are crucial for things like cellular forgiveness and threat response. It suggests the heart is central not just to physical life, but to emotional and spiritual integration, too.
Amazing. And then there's the cerebrospinal fluid, the CSF,
Yeah.
sometimes called living water.
Yes, in some traditions. Described as a clear, colorless gel, it apparently becomes supercharged with ions and laden with neuropeptides during these activated periods, especially accumulating in a crescendo with inner conjunctions.
So it's not just protective fluid, it becomes an active medium for energy and information.
That seems to be the idea. Sources even suggest that even breathing ionizes the CSF, hinting at this constant, subtle process of energetic refinement happening all the time, not just during peaks.
And this living water is said to renew the fluid our cells float in, hinting at regeneration, maybe even immortality in some texts.
Those are some of the more esoteric connections made, yes. It makes you speculate on its profound importance in the body's whole alchemical transformation. And it even leads to practical suggestions, like needing a high silicon diet to maximize the effectiveness of our cerebrospinal fluid and nerve sheaths, and also for collagen as our connective tissue undergoes a renewal.
Silicon for CSF, collagen renewal.
Yeah.
This really does sound like a complete biological upgrade is happening.
The descriptions certainly point that way. And this biological transformation, it extends right down to the cellular level. It influences our immune system, our metabolism in really profound ways, a true cellular alchemy unfolding in real time.
Okay, so the immune system. How does that get involved? Our sources say it cycles.
Yeah, it cycles between increased immunity followed by periods of reduced immune activity.
Yeah.
And that reduced activity, that immune suppression, can result from prolonged high adrenaline and cortisol levels.
So the stress hormones take a toll. That
Wrong.
sounds concerning, like it leaves you vulnerable.
It could sound that way, but the sources suggest it's actually part of a larger necessary process. Which brings us to the die-offs.
Okay, let's unpack this apparent paradox. These die-offs.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't just a negative side effect. They're actually an essential part of the transformation.
According to the research we reviewed, yes. These die-offs are described as a biochemical process which secondarily brings about the dissolution of the operational personality structure for a period of time.
Dissolution of the personality structure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It stated that the brain is undergoing such a catastrophic neurological meltdown and renewal, and this die-off process is seen as the highest alchemical function of the immune system to dissolve the pupil body.
Dissolve the pupil body. That's a powerful metaphor, like a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. So it's a necessary dismantling to make way for the new structure, not a sign of illness itself.
That's the perspective offered, and the positive outcomes are apparently evident during the parasympathetic growth periods. These are obvious by increased mitosis, cell division, and the illuminating glow that occurs, which makes the body-mind seem supernaturally vital.
The glow. People talk about that.
Right. This biophoton glow is apparently always associated with massive bliss and heart expansion periods, signaling that parasympathetic rest recovery and opening phase. So it's not just about feeling good, it's about actual cellular regeneration happening.
Incredible. But this metabolic intensification, this whole process, it must be really demanding on the system.
Extremely demanding. The sources are clear. Kundalini is an amplification of metabolism. So all the normal processes, oxidation, inflammation, even mineral exhaustion, are increased or happening faster, more intensely.
And energy production creates waste products, right?
Exactly. As energy production ramps up exponentially, so do free radicals and ROS reactive oxygen species. These are the toxic byproducts of making energy, and they can damage cells.
And the brain is particularly vulnerable.
Highly vulnerable, yes. Because of its high content of polyunsaturated fats, which are easily oxidized, and high numbers of mitochondria. Mitochondria are the cell's power plants, but when they're working overtime, they churn out more of these damaging free radicals.
Okay, so protection is key.
Absolutely critical. The sources stress the need for antioxidant protection. They specifically recommend compounds like pine bark, vitamin C ester, and alpha-lipoic acid, especially antioxidants that can actually cross the blood-brain barrier to protect those delicate brain tissues from the increased oxidative stress.
Makes sense. You need to mop up the extra waste. And woven through all of this, underpinning the whole thing, is the role of sex hormones.
A profound role. Our sources reiterate a really powerful statement. Sex hormones are the root element of the alchemical process, for you simply don't get an awakening without an elevation of the sex hormones.
Wow, so they're not just secondary players, they're fundamental drivers of this whole transformation.
That's what's indicated.
What's fascinating here is just how deeply integrated the physical, the chemical, the spiritual aspects of this process are. right down to the hormonal level.
Mm-hmm.
So how does this elevation of sex hormones actually contribute to the awakening?
Well, this elevation seems directly connected to the copious production of nitric oxide, NO, which, as we discussed, engorges both heart and sex organs.
Right. Increases blood flow.
Exactly. That increased blood flow and heightened sensitivity lead to a state of being both hormonally and vascularly opened and ready for supersex, as one source puts it rather directly.
Okay.
But it's clearly not just about physical sensation in that context. It highlights how deeply the body's fundamental creative and life force energies are repurposed and amplified in this transformative journey. It's like every cell gets infused with a heightened sense of vitality and potential.
It sounds almost like a hyper-evolutionary state where our core biological drives are actually redirected towards spiritual growth.
That's a compelling way to frame it, yes. It truly reshapes how we might think about biology and consciousness. And the sources, they even delve into the quantum connection, exploring the potential physics of consciousness during these awakenings.
Okay, now we're getting really mind-bending. Beyond chemistry and neurology into something even more fundamental.
Right. One concept mentioned is the tumescence of the blueprint of the body-mind.
Tumescence of the blueprint. What does that mean?
It's described as creating an amplified morphogenic field. So think of a morphogenic field as like an invisible informational pattern or blueprint that guides how an organism develops.
Okay, I like the instructions.
Sort of. During Kundalini, this blueprint, this field, becomes amplified. And the result is that cells set about changing and reorganizing themselves to convey the upsurge of consciousness or spirit.
So the cells are responding to this amplified information field, restructuring themselves.
That's the idea. It suggests a fundamental reorganization at the cellular level, guided by a higher informational field, almost like a living organism actively upgrading its own operating system based on new instructions.
Wow. And this leads to what?
It leads to greater vibration, rhythm, correspondence, and communication between atoms, cells, and organs, which results in an intensification of sensation and function overall.
Everything working together better, more intensely.
Yes, and the sources suggest that this higher integration is concurrent with increased psychic extrasensory abilities. So, as we integrate our internal organism, we delve more deeply into the collective interiors of the human race and the globe.
So individual integration leads to collective connection, blurring the lines between self and other.
That's the implication, an expansion of individual awareness into a more collective, transpersonal sphere.
Okay, and then there are scalar waves and biophotons. These sound like they push the boundaries of conventional physics.
They certainly do. Scalar waves are described as encoding the information of space and time into a timeless, spaceless quantum shorthand.
Quantum shorthand. Okay.
Meaning? Well, it implies a potential mechanism for things like seeing the past or future by somehow tapping into this ultimate holographic blueprint of reality where information isn't necessarily confined to linear time or three-dimensional space. It's a radical idea.
Definitely radical. And healing energy. Scalar energy.
Yeah, the sources mention that healing energy, identified as scalar energy, has apparently been shown in some studies to cause neurons in a petri dish to fire at their synapses.
Really?
Which suggests a possible physical mechanism for how extra nerve energy would be naturally kindled during an awakening, a way these energy surges might actually happen physically.
Okay. And biophotons and phonons.
Yeah.
Light and sound from DNA.
Right. They're described as incredibly subtle light, biophotons, and sound phonons, waves that are released and absorbed by our DNA. And they're proposed to form an instantaneous communication device throughout the body.
Instant communication within the body via light and sound.
That's the concept. And active Kundalini means an increase in biolight. The transmuting body has a higher rate of cell growth and division, so photon emissions are higher. And importantly, this higher frequency of emissions is likely to be more coherent.
More coherent meaning. More organized. Less random.
Exactly. More organized, more efficient. It's as if the body becomes a more efficient light-emitting and light-processing organism, literally vibrating at a higher, more organized frequency.
It sounds like our very DNA becomes a kind of quantum antenna.
That's a great way to visualize it. And finally, the sources briefly touch on the Merkaba. This is a traditional concept that really ties into this quantum understanding.
Merkaba, the light body vehicle.
Essentially, yes. Merkaba means the spirit body surrounded by counter-rotating fields of light, or spirals of energy as in the DNA, which transports spirit body from one dimension to another.
Okay, so connecting the energy fields to DNA again.
Right. It connects back to that idea that the DNA possesses a biophoton vibratory infrastructure that parallels the molecular structure. It suggests our spiritual or energetic reality and our physical reality are deeply interconnected, maybe even two sides of the same quantum coin. It offers a kind of framework for understanding how consciousness might actually transcend conventional physical boundaries.
We've covered so much ground. The extraordinary phenomena of spontaneous Kundalini and Samadhi, explored their intricate biological, even quantum underpinnings. It's mind-blowing stuff. Now let's shift focus. We need to talk about navigating the aftermath.
Great.
The reality of recovery, the challenges that inevitably top up, and the essential practices for integration and sustained growth after such a profound internal transformation. Because the journey doesn't just end when the peak experience fades, right?
Not at all. In many ways, that's when the real work, the integration, truly begins.
Exactly. So recovery, it can take a while.
It can indeed be a protracted process. And this is a critical point for anyone going through these shifts or supporting someone who is to really understand. Our sources note that after a full-on 6-month Kundalini peak, it takes about 5 years to recover.
5 years. Wow. That's significant. It's not a quick fix or a one-and-done event.
Definitely not. But there's a crucial caveat here. The more we know about the neurological activity of Kundalini, the higher the potential spiritual gains and the faster the recovery.
So understanding helps. Knowledge is power.
Absolutely. It emphasizes the profound importance of understanding what's actually happening inside you, transforming it from this mysterious, maybe overwhelming event into a process that can be consciously navigated and supported.
That makes a huge difference. But beyond just the physical recovery time, there are also significant psychological vulnerabilities to navigate, aren't there?
Yes, definitely. Our material points out that during the exhaustion phase that often follows a peak, a person may become less psychic than they were prior to the awakening.
Oh, interesting. The abilities might fade.
They might recede, yes. And this necessitates psychological preparation. You need to be ready for that possibility to avoid falling into soul sickness or an extended depression when these heightened abilities perhaps lessen, leaving a sense of loss or disorientation.
You could feel like the universe suddenly dimmed after being so incredibly brilliant.
Exactly. And another significant pitfall the sources warn against is ego inflation.
The spiritual ego.
Right. That tendency to imagine having been chosen or having earned this gift, which can lead to a sense of superiority or grandiosity, feeling special in an unhelpful way.
How do you counter that?
Well, it's sharply contrasted in the text with the profound insight that I may be special, but so are we all. It urges a kind of humility, a recognition that while the experience is unique to you, the potential for such experiences is universal.
That's a great grounding thought.
Okay.
And then there are the really challenging dark night experiences. That's a common phrase in spiritual circles.
It is, and these are described not just as spiritual trials, but potentially as a biochemical process, a catastrophic neurological meltdown and renewal, where the ego personality and functionality is temporarily completely non-operational.
So a real breakdown of the old self.
A deep involuntary surrender, yeah. A profound stripping away, which can feel absolutely terrifying if it's not understood in context.
And how you interpret it is key.
Critically important, according to the sources. The psychological emotional story one gives to interpret this autogenic biological event is secondary to the chemistry and yet is absolutely key to whether one can use the down cycles to further one's spiritual growth or simply cause an escalation of our primary suffering.
So your narrative shapes the outcome. Is this an illness or is it transformation?
That's the core difference, yes. How you frame it makes all the difference.
And often, adding to the difficulty, these intense, unusual experiences are met with societal ignorance, misunderstanding.
Which only compounds the challenge, absolutely. Our sources acknowledge that going it alone is hard. And worse, being insulted and attacked by spiritual Nazis, formalists, for expressing one's experience, these make it harder.
Spiritual Nazis. Wow. Strong language again, but it points to that rigid judgment.
It does. There's a real fear of the unknown, a tendency to pathologize what isn't easily categorized or understood. The research indicates that the experience of persecution is a common one. It reinforces the idea that we live in a society that is largely ignorant of and fearful of metamorphosis.
So how do you deal with that external pressure?
The advice given is both powerful and practical. Compassion and joy gets you safely through any social ignorance.
Compassion and joy. Interesting.
It suggests focusing on internal resilience, maintaining your own truth, cultivating positive states within yourself rather than getting caught up in or defined by external judgments or lack of understanding.
Right. Don't let their fear become your reality.
Okay.
So given these profound challenges, the long recovery, the psychological pitfalls, the societal misunderstanding, how does one cultivate a supportive environment and effectively navigate this path? The sources must offer some practical tools.
Oh, definitely. They provide a wealth of suggestions for lifestyle adjustments and specific practices. Things for both physical grounding and energetic regulation, which are essential tools for integration.
Okay, let's talk grounding first. Physical grounding techniques.
Simple things can be remarkably effective. Nothing like a short walk, especially in nature. Focusing on breath and the sensation of your feet in each step, that simple act really reconnects you to the physical world, to the earth.
Look to basics.
Exactly. Hatha yoga, the physical postures, is highly recommended, but not rigidly. The idea is to focus on areas with resistance and stiffness, really tuning into your individual needs at that moment, listening to your body's signals rather than just pushing through a set sequence.
Makes sense. Personalized yoga. What else?
Running is also suggested as a way to shed out internal debris and get clear, but with a caution. Keep it short.
Not marathon training.
No, it's more about energetic release, not endurance. And for deeper emotional and energetic release, conscious movement and dance is highlighted, allowing yourself to explore the fullness of your body, encouraging free-form expression, letting the energy move through you without resistance or judgment.
Letting the body speak its truth. Okay, so those are physical.
Yeah.
What about energetic regulation, the inner arts?
Equally crucial, especially for managing these high energy states. Meditation is noted as being most helpful during periods of really, really high energy.
How does it help with high energy? Seems counterintuitive, maybe.
It acts like a layer of the atmosphere, helping to bring one down to earth before engaging in physical activity. It helps balance neuronal activity between the left and right hemispheres, improves overall brain syncopation, balances the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, and crucially reduces those stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline.
And we mentioned GABA earlier, the calming neurotransmitter.
Yes, and GABA is found to increase in the blood during meditation, supporting that deeper rest and integration state. Then there are specific breathing techniques. Solar plexus breathing is mentioned to integrate and balance the energy during both a high or a slump, and later to aid in the integration and establishment of the spiritual will.
Interesting. And the rejuvenating breath.
That's a specific technique using toning, sounds like sa, hum, to really empty the bottom, middle, and top of the lungs, cleansing the whole respiratory system.
Okay. And continuous fish breathing.
That's a no-pause breathing technique, just in and out, no holding. It's cited as being particularly effective for dealing with things like panic attacks, ecstasy, and heart expansions, helping to smooth out those really intense energetic surges.
Good tool to have. And toning and mantra.
These are described as perhaps the most effective tools we have for integrating energy during an awakening and helping the Kundalini to clear through blockages.
How do they work?
Apparently, the vibration helps move cerebrospinal fluid, which cleanses the brain and spine, literally clearing energetic and physical pathways for greater flow and coherence.
Vibration cleansing the CSF. Fascinating. What about grounding techniques, connecting to the earth?
Also emphasized, grounding helps reduce dissonance and depolarization of the nerves and reduces stress. Simple methods include physically lying your spine on the earth or rock for half an hour or more, literally reconnecting with the Earth's electromagnetic field.
Just lie down outside.
Basically. Another intriguing suggestion is to sunbathe, exposing one's genitals to the sun.
Really?
Yeah, the idea is it directly energizes the root chakra, the energy center at the base of the spine. And more broadly, practices like dancing and Reiki are mentioned as other ways to actively engage with and regulate energy. This active engagement with the Earth's energy in your own body is presented as pretty fundamental.
Okay, so movement, breath, sound, earth connection. What about nutrition? That must be huge with all this metabolic activity.
Absolutely essential. A superfood diet is strongly recommended because, as we said, Kundalini is an amplification of metabolism. All the normal processes, oxidation, inflammation, glycation, mineral exhaustion, they're all increased.
So you need more fuel, better quality fuel.
Precisely. A raw diet is mentioned as something that can bring on awakenings, and while it can de-repress vital energy and improved integrity integration of tissues, there's a caution about doing it during a full-on awakening because the rapid detoxification might be too disorienting.
Good point. So what key nutrients are highlighted?
Several. Silicon is vital for the cerebrospinal fluid and nerve sheaths, and also for collagen renewal, which is crucial for the body's structural integrity during rapid change.
Silicon, like in horsetail or bamboo.
Sources like that, yes. Also, minerals are key. Magnesium is essential for regulating potassium levels and adrenal gland function. Zinc is required for normal growth, development, and supporting the immune system. Selenium is also crucial.
Okay, minerals are vital. What else?
Fulvic acid gets a special mention. It's lauded as the finest electrolyte known to man. Apparently crucial for nutrient transport into cells, cell hydration, and detoxification. Shilajit is noted as a rich source of fulvic acid.
Shilajit, right. Heard of that.
And, critically, antioxidants. We talked about the free radicals. Antioxidants are essential to combat that increased oxidative stress, protecting neurons and cell membranes. Specific sources like ashitaba, a Japanese celery, and mixed carotenoids are mentioned.
Got it. Protect the cells.
A balanced diet overall with a proper protein to carbohydrate ratio is also stressed to prevent silent inflammation and insulin resistance, keeping the metabolism stable. And digestive enzymes are crucial, especially if eating cooked foods, to make sure you're actually absorbing all these vital nutrients.
Makes sense. And things to avoid.
The usual suspects, mostly amplified. High sugar carbohydrates, excessive stimulants, heavy cooked foods can all bog down the system when it's already working overtime. And notably, certain psychiatric drugs should generally be avoided unless absolutely medically necessary.
Why is that?
Because they can flatten the energy extremes and dull the mind, potentially hindering the natural alchemical process of the awakening itself. It's a delicate balance, obviously, needing careful consideration with a knowledgeable practitioner.
Right. And finally, emotional equilibrium.
Paramount for integration. Cultivating it means aiming for the absence of accumulated emotional tension and actively building energy reserves while discharging tension. It's not just about feeling calm, but managing the energy flow.
How do you achieve that?
Through a really holistic approach. The sources list diet, fasting, sports, martial arts, intense vocalization, psychodrama, addressing relationship problems, meditation, toning, etc. It's about creating an inner state of balance using multiple tools so you can support these intense shifts rather than just being overwhelmed by them.
This is a comprehensive toolkit.
Ah,
Okay, as we approach the end of this deep dive, it feels vital to address the potential pitfalls. The places where someone navigating this path might stumble or get stuck, and conversely, the pathways to mastery, how to truly integrate these experiences and thrive.
yes, the sources outline several common challenges, pitfalls on the path. One is called pathological regression. This involves a retreat into infantile pre-rational uroboric fusion, basically seeking rescue, wanting to dissolve back into a primal state rather than integrating the experience into mature functioning.
Okay, so avoiding responsibility.
In a way. Related is running away, a retreat and evasion through dissociation and denial. This might manifest as resisting the energy surges through substance addictions, heavy food, becoming sedentary, actively avoiding any practices that encourage opening or feeling the energy.
Trying to shut it down. Makes sense. What about the opposite? Getting lost in the good feelings.
Yes, oblivion or bliss obsession. This is a preoccupation and addiction to blissful energy, using it as a form of narcotic anesthetization to avoid real-world obligations.
Using bliss as an escape?
Exactly. It can lead to being hazy, diffuse, forgetful, preoccupied, heedlessness, daydreaming, and ultimately, one source warns, remaining a spiritual bum, disconnected from practical life and responsibilities. You get lost in the ecstasy and neglect everything else.
Okay, that's a clear warning. What else?
Diffusion. This represents a loss of left brain focusing and hierarchical prioritization, leading to confusion, vague boundaries, difficulty functioning effectively in the world. Then there's directionlessness, just a lack of clear purpose after such a disorienting, ego-dissolving experience. It's hard to know what next.
I can imagine. And spiritual lust craving.
Yeah, where spiritual ambition blocks the natural unfolding of spirit because it creates this state of self-inflicted deprivation. You're always chasing the next big experience instead of allowing the current process, whatever it is, to unfold naturally, always wanting more.
Right, interfering with the process. And the big one, spiritual ego.
Always a tricky one. It can manifest in two main ways. Inflation, feeling overly special, superior, and unique because of your expanded abilities or profound experiences. Or the opposite, deflation.
Deflation.
Yeah, where intense self-criticism generates paradoxical intent. You hinder your own progress by being way too hard on yourself, judging your process.
Okay. Two sides of the ego coin. Any others?
A few more key ones. An inability to stop, where paradoxically the advice is to move faster, you have to slow down further. Pushing too hard hinders progress. There is also guilt over awakening, fearing retribution or persecution, maybe unconsciously, for leaving what was your old life or relationships behind.
Survivor's guilt, almost.
Could feel like that. Then missing the mark, prioritizing the Kundalini phenomena or spiritual beliefs over life, love, and relationship, essentially disconnecting from fundamental human needs and connections.
Forgetting what really matters.
Precisely. And a really critical one, spiritual bypass. This is avoiding painful psychological issues by immersing oneself in a rigorous spiritual practice, using spirituality to escape unresolved emotional wounds rather than integrating them.
That's a big one people talk about, using spirituality as a defense.
Yes, it is. And two final, more subtle pitfalls. Abiding in the absolute, holding on to the transcendent absolute dimension so tightly that we can't see all the relative learning that we still have to do in our everyday lives and relationships, and being blinded by clarity where the very clarity you've gained fixates attention on a limited range of perceptions, interpretations, possibilities, leading to a new kind of narrow-mindedness.
Wow, lots of potential traps.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate all that? What's the warrior path to mastery the sources talk about?
It involves embracing a profound paradox. You have to both relax into allowing the dissolution of our former self while simultaneously building up and supporting new neurological growth.
Active surrender and conscious cultivation at the same time.
Exactly. It's not passive. The central idea, the core of this mastery, is that integrating the energy, therefore, becomes our warriorship. It's an internal commitment, an internal discipline, not an external battle.
Okay. So what does that warriorship look like in practice?
A key aspect is understanding cycles. Recognizing the, well, hyperbolic nature of awakening, there will be inevitable periods of intense light and profound darkness or difficulty. Understanding this prevents disillusionment and despair when the inevitable downturns happen. You know they're part of the process.
Expecting the ups and downs.
Right. It's also about consciously adopting the soul's posture, maintaining a noble, centered stance internally, even amidst internal or external chaos, and practicing whole-seeing from the mind's eye, the third eye perspective perhaps, to avoid being completely carried away by intense phenomena, maintaining a broader perspective.
Staying centered amidst the storm. And finally, the sources emphasize the role of relationship and something called big fun.
Yes, relationships are seen as potentially powerful containers for integration. Conscious sex in a harmonious evolutionary relationship is definitely the ideal, one source states, as it can significantly reduce down cycle and recovery time.
So intimacy becomes a vehicle for integration.
Potentially, yes. Intimacy requires both the need for the yin of surrender and the yang of active inclusivity, a balance of energies.
But it's not without its own challenges, right? Projections and stuff.
Absolutely. The process involves going beyond projection, acknowledging the extremely volatile and complex human predicament involving transference, projecting your own stuff onto your partner, especially during Kundalini activation. It means taking responsibility for your own internal landscape.
Cleaning up your side of the street.
Pretty much. And ultimately, it's about achieving sovereignty and connection. The idea is we have to be sovereign before we can surrender ourselves into accepting a relationship, meaning you need a strong, integrated sense of self before you can truly merge healthily with another.
Sovereignty first, then connection. That journey seems to lead somewhere. A place of deeper joy and purpose, maybe. Which brings us to this concept of big fun. What is that?
It's defined as something transpersonal, transcendent of work, duty, family, and relationships in the ordinary sense. It's described as a cathartic transmutation of daily life.
Okay.
It's about expressing ever more genuine and higher fun, to take fun where no man has gone before, to bring serious fun into the lives of others. It's an embodying of profound joy, purpose, and creativity that radiates outward. Not just an internal state, but something you bring into the world.
So it's like the overflow of this integrated, awakened energy expressed as creative joy.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's the ultimate expression, perhaps not just for personal bliss, but for bringing that light, that creativity, that fun into the world, transforming daily life into an adventure of profound meaning and connection.
Wow. What an incredible journey we've taken today. Seriously. We've gone through the astounding experiences of spontaneous Kundalini Samadhi, explore the intricate biological, even quantum shifts they involve, and discuss the essential practices for navigating the aftermath, for really integrating these profound transformations. It's been a deep, deep exploration of human
And
potential.
it really has. And hopefully you listening now have a deeper understanding of this incredible potential within human experience, not just as some mystical, far-off concept, but as a real embodied process,
Mhm.
deeply rooted in our biology, our chemistry, maybe even quantum physics.
Yeah. Remember, as our sources tell us, Kundalini is the energy of evolution. Turning it off is counterproductive. It seems to be this innate drive toward growth, towards becoming more fully, authentically ourselves.
A powerful force within.
So, maybe consider this provocative thought as you go about your day. If our bodies are potentially genetically engineered to become enlightened, as some sources suggest, and this whole process often seems to accelerate when we prioritize things like genuine human connection, radical honesty with ourselves, and a courageous surrender to our own deeper truth.
Mm.
What does that imply about the kind of society we are meant to collectively build, for our continued spiritual evolution? And maybe more personally, what does it mean for your potential big fun? What's the unique joy and creativity waiting to be expressed through you?
Good questions to ponder.
Definitely. We invite you to reflect on these insights. And perhaps with this newfound awareness, just observe the subtle shifts in your own experience, recognizing the extraordinary potential that resides within each of us.